Well, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans, and welcome into a different edition of Sparks of WNBA 365, folks. Reason being, if you remember a few nights ago, folks, we had some major problems with our internet and connection a few nights ago before we had the past few days off, folks. So we have come back and apparently fixed problems, folks. So it looks like I'll be channeling my inner Bob Barker and Drew Carey, folks, holding the microphone here on camera here, and also we've had some problems as well, folks. So we're going to give this a try here, folks. It's a bit of an audacious project, but with that, folks, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans, and welcome into the show tonight here. Cal McClure joining folks here from Studio 171 in San Diego, but somehow, some way, though, folks, joining us on Apple's FaceTime, because we're having some problems with this gentleman and his Google Hangout, folks, is Chris Woodmansey at the Edenhart Studios up in Anaheim, California. Chris, I'm looking at you, man, and this is like different / like super awkward we're doing it this way, man. But other than that, how's it going tonight, man?
I can't take this. Even though it's Sparks blood. This hangout.
Yeah, folks. Again, folks, it's certainly different for the night again because, again, I am in charge here of holding my microphone for this. Chris is having problems with his internet and can't get into our hangouts, and if he does come in, he's got audio problems. So it's just a bunch of things. It's just, Chris, it's basically something like this. It's a bunch of salt to the wounds after what occurred tonight at Staples Center this evening. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. What just happened in everything.
All right, so it's gone from bad to worse, folks. We've done a lot of things here just going wrong here tonight. We've had some problems here now, and I don't know, Chris. It just continues to pile on, man. We just keep having these problems, so we'll have to work on getting these fixed, I think, over the next few days, I think.
I agree. Announce security. Tell me, take up the. You know what?
Well, Chris, we're going to try our best here to sort of digest what we just witnessed at Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles, where Chris, kind of mercifully, the 2014 WNBA season for the Los Angeles Sparks has finally come to a close after a convincing loss tonight to the Phoenix Mercury by the final score of 93-68. It is a game, Chris, that will be remembered as more so just the ugliness of this contest tonight with the Sparks. Chris, for the 7th time getting defeated tonight by the Phoenix Mercury. Chris, before we get to all the numbers, man, your lasting thoughts about tonight's game and moving forward from here.
Just Sparks, no comment. Just no comment.
Chris, a very, a night, Chris, that I thought the Sparks would try their best to have some sort of good showing for their fans for the final time this season, at least, if they weren't going to be able to get past the Mercury, at least this would be, their only home game. And honestly, Chris, this team, laid an egg in a big way, Chris. And I thought for a few moments there that LA was going to concede 100 points in this game because it just got to that point in time where they took Candace Parker out of the ball game. They basically, Chris, threw the white flag after the third quarter when he had the Sparks Twitter handle change their profile photo from the Beat Phoenix emblem back to the regular basics of the Sparks logo on the team website. So, Chris, I knew going in that it would be a struggle for the Sparks to get the win or get a win in the series, but never did it cross my mind that this team would get rolled like this in the postseason, and above all, again, lose at home, Chris, but again, get walloped again by the same team that walloped them a few times good, though, this year in the regular season in the Phoenix Mercury.
Agreed. I just didn't thought we would get up this blow now. I thought we would at least try since the last game of the regular season at home, and I thought we would at least try, but Demon try.
Chris, the game is going to be probably remembered very well by everyone for the future about Brittany Griner's dunk on a breakaway that was basically, the dagger. That was, more salt to the wounds. As we get to the final line score here for Phoenix in this ball game, 30 in the first, 22 in the second, 23 in the third, and 18 in the fourth for a game total of 93, and for the Sparks, 14 in the first, 19 in the second, 18 in the third, and 17 in the fourth for a game total of 68 points. The box score for the Mercury, Brittany Griner, 21 points. Penny Taylor had 17. Candice Dupree, 16. And Dwana Bonner, 11. And Diana Taurasi had 9 for Phoenix. Going forward as well, Erin Phillips had 7. Shea Murphy and Elena Coburn, 4. Tiffany Bison, Anita Jacobson-Zagoda, no points for Phoenix. 4 of the Sparks, Candace Parker, who, Chris, I think, played her soul out tonight, knowing that there was, that all hope was basically lost in this game tonight. Didn't have to collapse on the floor again for the third straight year. Wasn't very, very down on the dumps like she was the past few seasons. Had 21 points. Neko Gumake had 14 in the contest for the Sparks. And after that, Chris, a major drop-off in the Sparks scoring department. KT had 8. Gruda was 6. Harrington with 5. Beard with 4. Harding with 2. Or with 6, I should say. Abdi actually had 2. And Candace Wiggins had none, as did Nikki Green. So, Chris, you kind of knew that when both teams brought in, Jacobson, Zagoda, Bias, and Coburn, and Abdi and Green, that this game was basically over and that the Sparks had finally conceded and finally said, enough is enough for the season, basically.
Agreed.
Chris, I know we're not on Sparks Fan Man, but I got a tweet here quickly from our Minty Harrington, Chris, who tweets, "God, I thank you for everything, the ups and downs. You are still so good to me. Thanks, Sparks fans, for your support all year, and be blessed." So, Chris, and I've been told this, or even said this too during the game, was, and speaking of our Minty, Chris, and the thing that I loved about her tonight in this game was, we know the game was a blowout and it was ugly, but Chris, she was out there still playing lockdown defense, had a couple of steals late in the game, Chris. So, that there was at least, Chris, more than one. That there was at least one player that had their heart and soul in this game, regardless of the score in this game, and that was good to see by our Minty keeping herself in this game, regardless of how bad this game was.
Agreed.
So again, folks, the Sparks season comes to a screeching halt again in the first round of the postseason. Back-to-back years, the team exits in the first round with a 93-68 loss to the Phoenix Mercury, who win 7 straight games over LA this season. They've advanced to take on the defending WNBA champion Minnesota Lynx in the second round of the postseason, beginning on Saturday. Other stats real quick, note, Chris, and this is really no surprise, but there were no lead changes, and the teams were never tied in this contest. Arena stat-wise, the game was played, of course, at Staples Center in downtown L.A. The officials tonight were Michael Price, Jeff Wooden, and Maj Forsberg. Total attendance tonight, 7,449. Time of the game, 2 hours flat for Game 2 of the WNBA West Conference semifinals. Chris, one more game to get to tonight real quick here in the WNBA, which included the Atlanta Dream staving off elimination, and the Eastern Conference champs have a ray of hope going into Game 3. They beat the Chicago Sky tonight, 92-83, Chris. Highlighted tonight by Angel McCoughtry, who basically was the only player in this game for the Dream. She dropped 39 tonight in the contest this evening. Chris, it looked good for Chicago early, like we had talked about before we cut off FaceTime for a bit today. So you can, attend to your girlfriend, who we hope is feeling better tonight sometime soon. But your thoughts going forward, though, Chris, about Game 3 Tuesday night down there in Atlanta. Who are you leaning towards now, the Dream or Chicago still?
Your wife is security over here wanting to take us.
Who do you think wins Game 3? You got Atlanta, who is the defending Eastern Conference champs, or can the Chicago Sky pull off a Indiana Fever of last year and upset the number one seed in the Eastern Conference this season? What do you think?
I think Chicago will probably win. Since they played great in the first few minutes today, and I think they'll probably win in Atlanta.
Yeah, Chris, I think today or tonight that Chicago proved that they are a bit vulnerable, but this is a team that has that bend, that has the bend but won't break mentality, which I love seeing teams have, and that was the best part about that. Chris, kind of a staggering number here real quick. In this game, I just caught this right now on the bottom part of the score of the box score, Chris. This is kind of Chris, this is kind of a, alarming / a bit of a crying shame, Chris, that there are only 4,546 in attendance tonight, Chris, for a playoff game at Allstate Arena tonight, Chris, in Rosemont. So, playoff game atmosphere, Chris, really wasn't there for the Sky, Chris. Only 4,500 people showed up tonight at the game. So, we'll see what occurs out of it. But again, folks, the final score tonight in the WNBA playoffs, Atlanta staves off elimination. They defeat Chicago 92-83. And, of course, tonight out west, the Phoenix Mercury make very, very quick work of the LA Sparks, winning that game 93-68. Now, Chris, we're going to be cutting out here briefly because I know that we need to work on getting you back into the hangout, and I know you have some personal business to take care of at the studios right now, Chris. But, folks, coming up next on the next show, the guys with the petition here, folks, we have an open letter written by myself and Chris that is to the fan bases of everyone about the offseason again, because we know that we did a lot of work for the WNBA over the offseason, so we'll talk about the letter coming up in the next show. But, Chris, as we do get ready to cut out here for a brief break to get some of these bugs worked out here, man, your lasting thoughts on the 2014 season for the Sparks and what you right now are initially thinking about for 2015 going forward.
I think it was a free pass for the Sparks, like you said, since what we gone throughout this past season, since we didn't know the owners thought we were going to be up in the Bay Area or folded. And I think just got a free pass, the motion in, and I think they'll be back next season since what you heard about Magic Johnson probably giving full control of Candace Parker around the team, so I think we'll be really strong, even way better than the season.
Chris, we'll have more about the season this year and our thoughts about 2015 at 10:30 with Shorty and Crystal on the Fabulous Forum. I know you'll be in there for a few minutes before you do duck out for the night. But again, folks, coming up at the top of the hour here, as soon as Chris gets done with his important task of the studios, folks, you will have the two-man show of record either in the hangout or like it's been so far, the guys with the petition coming up at 10 o'clock here again to sort of talk about the offseason again. We have ourselves a 2-page letter, folks, written to you, great WNBA fans, that was written in precisely 15 minutes by me. We will read that off to you, folks, coming up at the top of the hour. But, folks, you will take a break here. Try to get these bugs fixed out here, folks. We'll come back, hopefully, better than we did right now at 10 o'clock here. Petition shows up next year on the LA Sparks 365 Network. So, please, folks, do not go away whatever you do.